phony asylum. If they really wanted asylum, when they're coming from a place like Honduras or El Salvador or wherever, they would have asked for asylum immediately in Mexico, as soon as they cross the border into a neighboring country. That's why this is a #1 phony. But the numbers under the Obama administration have exploded regarding these illegals with children violating our border. Fiscal year 2013, 15,000 cases. By fiscal year 2017, more than 4x that, 75,000 cases. The bottom line here is, Chris, we have giant loopholes that you can drive a caravan through, and we need to close those loopholes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's one thing that corresponds to those numbers that you just referred to, and that's talk of amnesty. Dating back to 2013 with the Gang of Eight bill, that was a massive amnesty bill, and look at what's happening right now in Congress. They're talking about an amnesty bill. They're going to vote on an amnesty bill on Thursday afternoon. That's what happens when you talk amnesty in this country. It entices people to come to the United States. But you're absolutely right. There are loopholes that need to be closed. But at the same time, you know, I want to just hit on something that you said, a good point. If your house is burning down, you seek the nearest shelter. You don't hop in the car and drive across the country to seek shelter. You find the nearest shelter. And if these folks are really frightened for their lives as they're leaving them for their countries, and we know that the situation down in Central America isn't good right now, but Mexico is a good place. They can stay in Mexico. They can find safety in Mexico. Instead, they're making the journey all the way up here. Why? Because they know they can take advantage of our system.
Yeah, and they're using their children as weapons to get into our country and stay into our country. Let's face it. Let's be honest here. Now, and it's kind of depressing for me to hear somebody like Goodlatte, you know, Congressman Goodlatte. He had a pretty decent bill. It certainly wasn't perfect by any means. I think anytime you exchange amnesty for border security is a huge mistake, be that as it may. Now we have this compromise bill from Paul Ryan, or at least he's backing this compromise bill, and it ain't so good, is it? Delays reducing legal immigration, no E-Verify, most chain migration remains, does not withhold money to sanctuary cities, $25 billion to border security, but Congress, at a later date, some other Congress could come around and say, nah, we're not going to authorize that money for the border security. It's 1986 all over again, isn't it?
It really is. It's amnesty with promises of future enforcement. We've seen this before. We've gone through it. American people shut it down in 2013, again with the Gang of Eight bill. And I have pretty full confidence that that will happen again later this week. But you know, you mentioned the Goodlatte bill. That one key element of the Goodlatte bill is it did include mandatory E-Verify. Right. Why is E-Verify so important? Because without it, employers are allowed to continue to hire illegal workers. As long as that continues to happen, we're going to continue to have a demand for amnesty in this country. Yeah. The Ryan amnesty plan does not include an E-Verify mandatory, and that's just one of the things that makes it a bad bill. You mentioned the false trigger that's in it. You know, border security, $25 billion for border security, but that can be rescinded by a future Congress or president. Now, they did put a trigger in there. It blocks the illegal aliens that receive amnesty from getting green cards, but they still get to keep their amnesty. They get to stay in the United States. They get to keep their work permits. Right. So, again, it's a false trigger.
It's vintage Paul Ryan. Let's face it, vintage Paul Ryan. And he couldn't leave any quicker than he's leaving right now, in my opinion, because this is not a compromise. It's a sellout of the American people and the United States Constitution. Chris, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.